So, thanks for joining. This is going to be the third video of what I'm calling my PSC journal. And today, I was thinking about what this third video could look like, should look like, would look like. And I guess I will continue on with the message that living with PSC means living in uncertainty. Every month there's lab draws. Some results come back calm, or as they'll call it, unremarkable. Some dip. They'll say depressed or suppressed. Some spike. Spike usually means it's concerning. And you're left asking the same three questions, at least for me. Am I steady? Am I sliding? Or am I about to crash into something life-threatening? Cholangitis, hemorrhagic pancreatitis. That uncertainty is corrosive. It literally seeps into everything. Your evenings, into your plans, into whether you book a flight, say yes to a wedding invitation, or lace up your shoes, jump on your bike, and go for a ride. The numbers on that paper trail tell you a story. But the truth, the real measure of PSC is how those numbers rearrange your life. And that's what this video is about. Not the science that you are most certainly probably going to Google. Also, use Google Scholar. It is not the same as Google. You're gonna probably hear some textbook definitions, but the lived reality of what comes next is much different. So in today's conversation, I hope to show you the following. Why community is not a reminder of what you fear. It's your lifeline. How PSC Partners and patients before me gave me the tools that I'm about to try to give you to help you to survive. Why advocacy in the ED is, with your hepatology team, with your family, it's not optional, it's essential. And finally, the practical strategies. The folder, the bracelet, the red flags, the rules that turns chaos into something you can manage. And that's important because there are some hard truths. This disease will most likely take control wherever it can. The question is, how do you take back what control you can? And for a long time, I thought I had to carry that weight alone. Control. I avoided the support groups. I told myself that if I looked too closely, if I saw people worse off than me, I wouldn't be able to outrun what was coming, so I hid from them. Them being the others that had PSC. But you have to remember, or perhaps you need to be told, community isn't a reminder of what you fear, it's a lifeline. Groups like PSC Partners aren't just message boards. They really are a driving force. My hepatologist, Dr. Chris at UC Health, literally just the other day said to me, without PSC Partners, we'd be decades behind this disease. They are literally the driving force for a therapy and a cure. Think about that. This isn't charity bingo. This isn't nonprofit. Well, it is a nonprofit, but I think you know what I was about to say. It's a nonprofit that's literally driven by patients and families refusing to let PSC stay invisible. Survivors, clinicians, doctors, partners, all of them together. They connect people. They are funding the science. They teach other doctors. They help translate the jargon. And when you can't carry it alone, they literally show up for you. I didn't join right away. My partner did. She became a part of the communities on Facebook. I'm actually not on social media. I think it's our Fermi paradox, our existential threat, and that's my own, again, we talked about confirmation bias, but I stand by my choice with social media. But before I did join, I had a call with a woman. I met Joanne. And if you call PSC Partners, there's a good chance you'll meet her too. The thing about Joanne is simple. In about 30 seconds, you realize she cares so much for strangers that you understand how powerful the whole network becomes when it moves as one, if that makes sense. I literally think Joanne is one of the few people I've ever met that could be an angel here on earth, and you'll hear other people say that as well. She made me realize that I wish I had joined years earlier, because PSC Partners isn't only about coping, it really is. It's about building a bridge for your future. But even with that bridge, the hard days still come. Days that you probably have tried to outrun. Days that remind you, no matter how prepared you are, you don't steer the ship alone. And that's when you end up in the emergency department. This right here is where everything you learned from the community suddenly comes to light. Advocacy in the ED isn't optional. You've heard me say it before. It's survival. Because most ED doctors haven't seen PSC, and that's a sad and pathetic truth. But again, PSC Partners is working really hard to change that. Your labs might not scream emergency. In fact, mine often come back looking like I'm an extremely healthy man. But the truth is buried in the details, that the crumbs that you lead, the crumbs that when lined up tell the real story of what's happening with you. For me, it's a bilirubin shift, so small that it looks like noise. An ALP creeping higher than the baseline, which is always kind of skewed. It's the fact that I carry antibiotics because I'm always waiting for that next flare. My partner's notes on itching that started 3 nights ago. Alone, each one of those breadcrumbs looks harmless. Stacked together, they paint a picture. But too often, the first reaction isn't to connect those dots. It's to kind of dismiss. They see me doubled over in pain and reach for the easy label, which is, again, we've talked about this before, drug seeking. I've been there, curled up on a gurney, listening from the beds as the voices in the hallway said things like, there's nothing wrong with him. It's almost like you're being gaslit in those rooms. And then sometimes one detail finally cuts through. That nurse that cares too much, or she says something like, his temperature's been swinging between 95 and 103. It's rare. And literally that 95 to 103 back and forth happens within 30 minutes because that's the cycle that they have for taking your temperature. That single line or comment kind of becomes the bridge. Suddenly the team starts piecing it together. Their training kicks in. Imaging is ordered. Cultures are drawn. The room shifts from dismissal to diagnosis. Or, and this is the point of these videos, you can be ready before you even walk through those doors. Carry the folder that shows the pattern. Name the trends out loud. Have your hepatology team on speed dial, literally. Teach the room how you see what you already know. Because when the system is slow to recognize you, your recognition, sharpened by community knowledge, becomes the trigger that saves you. That's the lesson. Learn the breadcrumbs. Connect them. Advocate so clearly, so loudly, not annoying, not aggressive, not angry, but loudly, that your care team has no choice but to listen. If you want to survive a system that doesn't always recognize you, you being PSC, because you and PSC are the same thing, you have to become your own first responder. learn the language, build the paper trail, bring the names, carry the contacts, and bring a partner who can speak when you can't. That one's kind of important because at the border between indifference and care, advocacy, not advocates, is the difference between getting better and remaining broken. If I hadn't listened to my care team, to Dr. Chris at UC Health, to Nurse Marcy, to my partner Carrie, to the countless others that are on my teams, if I hadn't learned from PSC patients before me, sat in those PSC partner sessions, absorbed those strategies, their strategies, I might not have known how to advocate for myself. Let me be clear. Sometimes ED doctors don't truly know what's going on. They just don't know. Sometimes they're making educated guesses. That doesn't mean they're discarding you. It means they're learning on the best tools that they have. Technically, you could be a tool for them. Doctors dedicate their lives to helping patients, to helping me. Nurses do the same. You need to remember that they're human, though. They get tired. They carry emotional weight the same way we do. And when you're yelling or crying or collapsing on the floor, they may not respond the way that you want them to because they have to see through the drama. And make no mistake, if you're collapsing on the ground and begging for pain pills, that might be a little dramatic. It's not always that they're ignoring you. It's that they've been trained to listen differently. I can remember when Carrie was going through MCATs. There's critical analysis, clinical reasoning. There's a specific term. I'll put it up over here. Now, don't get me wrong. Some people just suck. And doctors are no different. But yelling at them like they're your employee isn't advocacy. You are sabotaging your care. And I'll admit it, mea culpa. I've been guilty of losing my patients. The difference is I've learned to follow it with a genuine apology. Not, by the way, an apology is, I'm sorry. What's not an apology is, I'm sorry, but. Just, I'm sorry. And that's hard. But say that. Say, I'm sorry, this is hard. I just made it harder for you, and I recognize that. And that's where community has helped me. From the community I've built, I've learned how to push the right way, to demand deeper imaging, but knowing the right imaging to ask for, not an MRI, maybe an MRCP or a CAT scan with contrast dye. You want to demand, but you don't want to alienate the team that's working really hard to try to figure out what's happening with you. I know now to call my UC Health hepatology team before even stepping into the DED. Before even stepping into DED. I do that so my backstory before I walk into that room is known. I've learned to carry a folder that I built myself. Plain language, clear breakdowns, explaining why the labs make me look healthy when I'm not. It's why I wear a bracelet. My bracelet says my name, where I live, my partner, her phone number. She is my medical proxy. She can make decisions for me. And it says, must go to UC Health, liver disease, PSC. These aren't props. They're survival tools. And they really are. I'm not trying to be dramatic here. Every one of them, every one of these tools came from people that walked this road before us. These lessons didn't come from a textbook. They came from lived experience, from PSC Partners, and they are the reason things didn't go very, very differently for me some reason that sentence, that statement seems off to me. But what I'm trying to say is they're the reason why there is some normative behavior when you put these things in place. They're also the reason my partner and I have learned how to manage this disease together. Because make no mistake, I don't think anybody can do this one alone. You need a partner. You don't need a cheerleader. You don't need an observer. You don't need a sycophant who's going to cater to every need. You don't need an overbearing parent who makes everything about themselves, pulling focus away from what you actually need. You need a partner who can speak when you cannot. Calm but firm. Clear. A partner who knows your plan, who has your specialist's phone numbers, who knows where your records live, who takes notes, detailed notes, because your surgical team and your hepatology team may not show up at your bedside at the same time as the emergency department visit. And when they don't, someone has to explain why your gallbladder doesn't need to be removed, even though it looks like it does. Because there will be moments when the pain consumes you and the words won't come. And in those moments, your person has to be the one who says, get him a bed upstairs, schedule the ERCP now, start the antibiotics. Not because they want credit for what they know, but because you need that lifeline in that moment. And maybe I'll talk a little bit about when you don't have your partner with you or your person, or, Carrie sometimes says, have a higher counsel. When there's no one there to see what's happening, you need to be mindful of it. When there is no partner beside you, when you are finding yourself collapsed in the shower, on the tub floor, letting the water mask the sound of your cries, your screaming pain, not because it helps the pain, the warmth of the water, but because you don't want the building to hear you. It's in those moments when the pain is kind of so sharp, it feels like your body is breaking from the inside out. You tell yourself the only thing you can do. You say, I'll survive this. And that is the human cost. The part no chart, no lab draw, no clinical summary will ever capture. So what do? What actually helps when the medical system frays those edges? I kind of have these rules for survival that I've put into place. Like I mentioned before, build your own emergency folder. It could be just one page. That's all it really needs to be. Your diagnosis, key labs, trends, current meds, allergies, your hepatologist number. Add your latest MRCP or imaging summary. Have it on your phone. But have a physical folder in your bag, in your truck. Have a few of them. So when you hit the ED, don't ask. Kind of hand it to them and watch them scan it. Carry a medical ID, a bracelet, a wallet card, something on your phone, whatever works. Like I said, we already went over what mine says. It sometimes saves hours, especially if you're in an ambulance. It tells whoever's taking care of you in that moment what needs to happen. This one's important, and I'm going to go into this one a little more in detail. Lock down your power of attorney right now. Not a committee, not a family vote, one or two people that you absolutely trust. Make sure they know what you want. For me, I didn't choose a parent. I chose my best friend, who's an engineer. He's cold, he's calculated. He makes decisions like a surgeon with a stopwatch. We have been in life and death situations, literally, on rock climbs where we've had to make educated decisions, and I know how calculated he can be. I also chose Carrie, my partner, who is medically trained, knows my story better than anyone alive. Here's why. Because a lot of people are saying, why didn't you choose your mom or your dad or your, when that worst case scenario hits, and it has for me, I don't need someone panicked about what mom would want or what God would want or what sounds comforting in the moment. I need someone who knows what I want. And when you pick the right people, you've trained for that. Newt, Carrie, and I have rehearsed those conversations. They're hard, they're ugly, but they're real. And let me kind of be clear about this. This part is going to break some hearts. Your mom or your dad will threaten the person you choose. Your aunts will be frustrated. Friends will demand updates. They will try to call your doctors. They will clog the phones, flood the nurses with questions. But in those moments, it's not about them. In those moments, when the ICU is chaos and your life is on the line, your doctors do not need to be playing nursemaid to your family's fears. They need to focus on you. They need to be focused on saving you, understanding what's happening. They don't need to be answering calls from a parent for the 15th time, trying to talk them down off an edge. So choose your person, make it legal, make it known, and train them for the role. Because when the noise rises, when everyone else is crying and grasping for information, they're the ones who have to cut through it and say, do what he wanted, do it now. I also learned moving on, I also learned the red flags. And it sometimes helps to say them out loud. Fever, jaundice, worsening abdominal pain. That's not just fatigue, that's cholangitis. That means there is carnage being wreaked inside of your body in the form of infection, generally speaking. And when you walk into the hospital, don't whisper it. Let them know in the past an MRCP or a CT or blood cultures have confirmed your fears. Don't let normal vitals fool anyone into thinking that you're fine. This also lets your care team in the ED, who doesn't really know you, they see you as a chart, not as a person, as they should, know that you've been down this road before. Next, I would say, and I've said it before, find your community. Isolation kills quicker than PSC. Community teaches you the playbook. They translate fear into tactics. Join early. Lean in on it. I travel like a military operation. Prophylactic antibiotics, if needed, a clear evacuation plan, a doctor on speed dial. I don't board a plane without a lifeline. Neither should you. Document everything, like I mentioned. Every call, every ED visit, names, dates, times, because when you have to escalate, and you probably will, the paper trail is going to win. Know your weak spots. Name them. If you're claustrophobic, maybe not demand. Have meds. Talk to your care team about meds prior to MRIs and actually MRCPs or CAT scans. If you've got a contrast allergy, warn the tech before you vomit in the scanner, because the tech is going to say, and you're going to hear it, and you're going to be frustrated if you don't. It's just a couple more minutes while you're spinning, and you've been in that tube for 45 minutes. Here's one that Carrie and I do all the time. As soon as we are placed in a ward or a wing, we introduce ourselves to our nursing staff. My line, literally, I'm Aaron. My partner, Carrie, calls me, she has a nickname for me called Two Kinds of Luck. So if something wild is going to happen during this shift, it will probably be happening to me. Just prep them in a light way. I also then, once they get to know you and you've humanized yourself, I tell them that I have ICU delirium from past experiences. It's a PTS. It's a traumatic response sometimes. I let them know if you skim my Epic portal, my chart, the dots will connect. What that does is simple. It makes me human. It tells them I'm seasoned, yes, but also vulnerable. I'm scared and honest about what this will take from all of us. That isn't theoretical. It's not a checklist for the fridge. These are battle rules for me. Every one of them was paid for in sweat, fear, nights I thought I wouldn't make it. It's because if you want to outlast PSC in a system that wasn't built for you, you need more than labs and meds. You need a plan, you need a voice, you need a partner. And you need to know your weaknesses, because when you name them out loud, you take back control. That's what turns a diagnosis into a fight for me. And that's what keeps you living long enough to see the cure that PSC Partners is going to come up with, that your teams are going to be able to use. Now, this isn't a how to fix checklist. I just want to be clear. PSC doesn't really have a neat fix. There is no neat fix. But these are tools that keep you in the fight. They give you agency when the system seems to forget the human inside the chart. You will have bad days. You will meet worse forecasts. But you will also find allies. A nurse who remembers your name, Marcy, a hepatologist, Dr. Chris, Dr. Furman, who read your charts the way you wish every doctor would. A neighbor who becomes your lifeline when you need a ride at midnight over to the ED. Build that village. Build that higher council before you need it. And that's kind of important. You've heard me say it. On paper, PSC is clinical. Fibrosis, strictures, biliary beading, risk. In real life, it's messy and you're human. It's labs and showers and hospital bracelets. And if you let it be, it can also be community, plans, preparedness. Trying to keep this one under 35 minutes. I guess if you walk away from this with one line: prepare, partner, and push. I just came up with 3 P's. Prepare your plan. Partner up for the moments that you can't speak. Push for the care you need. Gently, relentlessly, with documentation. Because the fight for your life is not only medical, it really is kind of logistical. It's also political. It's relational. And it's the one thing we can learn to do better. We can learn to do it better together. We can do better. We really can. We have to do better. We have to do better because this is hard. What you've gone through, what you're about to go through, the path you've been down, it's really hard. It's tired. It's hard and it's tired. And it's emotional. It's hard. But hopefully you stuck around. I think for video 4, there's been something I've been playing around in my mind, a theory of change. I think I'm going to go into this kind of Dr. Google problem that seems to be more readily available, realistic in your everyday kind of fight. We'll go into that in a little more detail. Thanks for sticking around.